Marie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So to start, when you first get a call that you're playing a character that does have a lot of comic backing, especially in this Matt Reeves universe where they focus a lot on what the actual comics said about these characters while making them grounded. What for you was like the challenge of approaching a character like Magpie and getting to learn about her in that way versus what you would just maybe normally do for a character that's whatever is written on the page?
So I'm glad you asked that question because I literally like have the comic books out that I that I
I love
ordered
it.
when I got the part because I was like, okay, great. We're dealing with her when she's already in Arkham after this whole sort of vigilante life. And how am I going to sort of absorb all of that info from the comic books and then sort of pile it into the few scenes that I have
Mhm.
in Penguin? So I just had an absolutely delightful time reading all of her comics and looking at the cool costumes and feeling a little bit like, oh fuck, now I just have to wear a prison outfit. I can't wear like the fishnets and the crazy hair. But I had a lot of help from the director Helen as well to fill in some of the backstory that we created for the concentrated sort of Matt Reeves universe and Lauren
Mhm.
LaFranc universe. Um, where Magpie has this scar on her face, and where did that come from, and how does that inform why she became the way that she became. And we sort of colored in a lot of childhood trauma in the scene that I have. The first scene with Sophia, I talk about my stepmother. And so we created this whole backstory of her stepmother being an incredibly traumatizing figure in her life, like maybe throwing boiling water on her face when she was little. Um, and then I took that and then weaved it into the comic books and sort of like went on a whole daydream experience of
Mhm.
like situating myself in her body through that. Yeah. And then, working with a director like Helen, working with a script as powerful and working with Kristen, it was really easy for me to just let all of that backstory work, imaginary work that I did just sit
Mhm.
in my body and just respond to what was happening around me and in front of me.
Well, yeah, that's so interesting because like Kristen, they change a lot of like the origin of Hangman from the comics within this, which I do think is a really cool change, and I like what they did with it. But then to have Magpie, who like you pulled clearly a lot from the comics, makes it like a very nice kind of balance between what was changing and what wasn't. When you are working with Kristen, and it is, she's contending with her own thing because it's what everyone perceives of her and what actually happened and why she was in Arkham versus a character like Magpie who is there because of the crime she committed. What for you was the best part of like getting to figure out their dynamic in Arkham as a prison and like how they would lean on each other?
So for me, so Kristen was just already so dialed and focused and like had this very three-dimensional, incredible, gritty, dark character that she'd
Mhm.
worked on and brought to the table. Um, for me, pulling from the comic books was my favorite part in that first scene, and also throughout the other two, where Magpie is obsessed with shiny things. She's Magpie.
Mhm.
So working through that little rivet hole for the first scene when it's next to each other in the cells, um, I turned her into a shiny new thing. And I
Mhm.
had been in this dark, gritty prison for such a long time without any shiny things. I talk about that, there aren't any trees, there aren't any birds, like, and she's so polished coming from this wealthy family, and she's in the press and she's glittery and sparkly and everybody's paying attention to her. So that really drove me to become obsessed in a way. And then Kristen, very much pulled back and rejected, but still needed information out of Magpie. So that was a very interesting dynamic. I kind of, it took me back to my high school days where I wasn't very popular and I really was desperate to make friends. And I was just trying to be really kind and nice. And people thought I was quite overbearing and too much. So, like, I just, yeah. So,
So sad, but it's also so relatable. You're like,
it was cathartic to work through it was like therapy for me, I should say.
God, I love that. But well, then I have to ask because like I thought you had one of the Batgirl comics. I love Batgirl. I love Barbara Gordon, but I do think when you are a fan of especially Batman comics and he as a character, like I love that he is actually a detective in the Matt Reeves universe because we've never seen that in live action. But that
Yeah.
makes this Gotham so much more real to me than other Gothams we've seen in the past. Coming from reading the comics and really understanding this character, what was it like the first time you got to step foot in Arkham and see kind of like how they brought Gotham to life on the set of the Penguin?
Ooh, that's a great question. So my first day was in Silver Cup Studios in
Mm-hmm.
Queens, um, inside of one of the warehouses where they had rebuilt literally the same Arkham scene from the Batman, where Batman and Riddler confront each other. So it was wild because I had really studied that film, obviously, to get the mood and the vibe. Walking into that, I have like the coolest picture because from the outside, it's just sort of this wooden box, and then you walk inside and you're in Arkham. It was like chilling for me. And our director, Helen, also really she likes to get her hands dirty. She's an incredible actor's director. Um, and I just remember the first scene was literally me in one cell and Kristen in another with a little hole, and the camera was where she would be. And Helen was trying to rile up the other inmates, the extras who were there. And so she would yell action. And then as I was doing the scene, she would be howling and screaming and banging on the door. It was incredible. So that felt very immersive. And then the two scenes in the mess hall we shot actually in a church in Williamsburg. Um, and that was also so awesome because it really was a very kind of broken down old soup kitchen. Um, and you know, the lighting and the way that they had draped the windows to create a certain sort of atmosphere, that was also so cool to feel. I was like, okay, so now we see a little bit more of Arkham than we had seen in the Batman. And being a part of that and being in that, it just really, it's almost like you don't really have to do much because you really believe that you're in there. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to ask, because I love that the Penguin is just The Sopranos, but set in Gotham. I think that's so much fun.
Yeah.
For you, if like obviously we know what happens to Magpie in the show, but like you got to have your own spin-off show. We got to see Magpie kind of pre-Arkham. What kind of show do you think she would have? Because we have what kind of the Riddlers is a psychological thriller serial killer movie. The Penguin is Tony Soprano mafia movie. So what would like Magpie's genre be?
Girl interrupted.
Good.
That's what I think, 100%. And one thing I will say that I really love is how Matt Reeves, when it's the Batman, everything is from the Batman's perspective. So the music, the kind of rebel rousing, the dark, depressed, like broody guy, you know, that's like the what you feel as a viewer as you move through
Mhm.
it. And the Penguin is very Tony Soprano, and like it's from his perspective, it's more in the streets, it's more from below. A lot of the camera angles are up. So like I think for Magpie, I would want it to feel trapped and to feel like you're in this confined, even when she is young, even when she is in her museum, when she's the museum curator and she has all of these shiny things. It's almost as if things like are coming at her and imploding and claustrophobic feeling. But yeah, I drew a lot from the Penny and Daisy characters in Girl Interrupted for my performance as well, which is why, yeah, definitely that's my answer.
My God, I love that. And for my last question, I love getting to see people who like not only looked at the comics, but like genuinely seem to love being in like the Gotham world that Matt Reeves created. And now Lauren LeFranc did such a good job with the Penguin. For you, what was like the moment where you were like, this is the coolest thing to kind of be on this set and be a part of this show?
Oh, when I found out I had a stunt double and I got to and I saw how they had rigged and choreographed my death scene. and
Mm,
like how they weren't afraid to shy away from the really gory gruesomeness of it all, because that's what it is, right? Like in comic books,
mhm,
yes, it's drawn out, it's sketched, it's a comic, but they don't shy away from like the the gory gruesome details and the emotional cathartic, like crazy experiences that characters go through when they die
mhm.
and when they go into fight scenes. So that was that was so cool, and being just like on a set of that scale with everybody pretty much as big of a fan as me, maybe like probably more, and to be able to portray this character and like do her like sort of last hurrah in this specific series was, I think, the coolest thing for me.
Yeah, I agree. I love this show so much. As someone who I just want Helena Wayne in something, I'm like, I want her to be in this universe because I feel like that's the vibe, but she would literally be an infant right now in the not in the light.
what
But thank you.
what was your favorite part of the show? I'd love to know.
Well, I love the Sophia storyline. I do like the change a lot. I think it's really, really cool how they changed the Hangman origins.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm a Selena Kyle girly. So I was like, I just love I love following the Falcone family and getting to see like the difference between like Selena and the Batman versus Sophia in this. So my
Yeah,
favorite part is just like the entire thing because I like seeing the balance between the two sisters.
love that. And female villains,
Mm-hmm.
you
They're
love.
great.
You love.
But thank you so much for talking with me. And I can't wait for everyone to get to briefly meet Magpie.
Briefly. It was
But
lovely
thank you.
meeting you.
Lovely meeting you. Have a great
Bye.
day. Bye.